you're out in the woods, you need to cut down some wood, build a fire or a shelter. How are you going to do it? Today we're going to go over a few options. And we do have several options to help you do that. And it all depends on how much weight you want to carry with you, different factors like that. Now obviously the easiest way would be a chainsaw, but again, on an actual hike, camping situation where you're camping away from the road and your vehicle, or God forbid a survival situation, you're not going to be able to take tons and tons of weight with you like a chainsaw would have to be, especially when you look at gas and oil and all that stuff. And you know, for no other reason, it might just be fun to go out and do some physical exercise, better your health, and have fun while you do it. Your first option is going to be a hatchet. Now the hatchet actually weighs 1 pound, 12.2 ounces, at least this particular hatchet. Just a cheap little hatchet. Actually requires a lot of work to take down a tree with this, or branches. It doesn't have to necessarily be a tree, but I mean, if there's a down tree, you got to take the branches off. This will work, but it's relatively large and bulky and heavy, so definitely not the best option. Now perhaps it's going to be something like this, the Kabar Bowie, you know, survival knife. This guy weighs 1 pound, 4.4 ounces, and it's actually pretty good at taking down branches, and you're going to see that in the video here. But it's kind of heavy. It's not too awfully long, but still not be something that you may have with you, or that you would like to carry because of the weight. The other downside to it is you're chopping down branches and stuff. There's a lot of chips of pieces of wood flying at your eyes, which could be potentially dangerous. And that's why I have my shooting glasses on today, just because of all the debris that happens from chopping down the wood. I actually cut down a branch earlier without the glasses on. I was flinching every time just because of the nature of all the wood that was flying. But anyways, again, the knife, 1 pound, 4.4 ounces, not necessarily your best option. And I'm going to go ahead and set this down there on the sheath along with the hatchet. Now what I prefer, and what I'm going to show you a little bit today, are the Sierra saws. And there's a lot of different brands out there. A lot of people make Sierra saws. This guy right here, the black one, it is Ozark Trail brand. It is a model 180 Sierra knife. I got this at Walmart for about $8, and for the price you can't beat it. And a hatchet's going to run you more than that. Definitely a good hatchet might run you a lot more than that. The Kabar Bowie, that I heard something over there. Must have just been a branch falling, but anyways, the Kabar Bowie runs about $50. Excellent knife, but it still could be a little bit out of your budget. But with the Sierra knife, Ozark Trail brand at Walmart for $8, you really can't beat that. Now this Remington brand, I also got at Walmart for a couple dollars more, around $10. So again, they're a very affordable option. Now, they're both made out of a pretty cheap metal, you know, high carbon steel, but it gets the job done, and for a very reasonable price. And so far, this particular one, I haven't used the Remington yet until today. This model right here, the Ozark Trail, I've used quite a few times to take down some trees and branches, and it's actually always worked pretty well for the job. Now, to lock the blade in position, first of all, it folds very compact like this. You could easily fit it down in your pocket, back pocket, whatever it might be, and take it along the trip with you. The blade has about a 7-inch long cutting surface, so that's pretty sizable. And it does fold in half, and there's a little locking mechanism on top. Somewhat crude, but it gets the job done. And actually just put it in that little hook there, snap it down, it's not going anywhere. You definitely need something that locks, or else you might end up pinching your fingers. I wouldn't use anything that doesn't lock. The Remington brand, it's heavier. It weighs 7.2 ounces. I hope I said that right. Actually, it weighs 7.4 ounces. Okay, the Ozark Trail was 5.6 ounces. The Remington, 7.4 ounces. Almost 2 ounces more. Either way, they're not heavy in and of themselves. So, depending on how well this works, the Remington that is, I would probably just prefer this one. A little bit cheaper, a little bit lighter weight. The Remington does have a thicker blade, and although it is less flimsy, the downside to it is you're cutting more wood as you're sawing off, so it takes a little bit more effort and force. Now you could argue maybe the design's better, maybe it cuts with a little greater ease. I really don't think that's the case. One thing I noticed about the Remington, it does seem like it takes maybe a little bit longer to cut down a branch just because of the larger, or the, you know, the wider width of the blade. It's not bad. The trick is to not push down on the blade. You gotta let the blade do its work, so you more or less let gravity do its job, saw back and forth. It takes a little bit longer than pushing it down, but generally it's less effort on your part to be able to do that. And of course, when you're out in the woods hiking or in a survival situation, you don't want to burn any more calories than you have to get the job done. Particularly when you're freezing or you need food, whatever it may be, you need something that's going to cut down the branch and cut it down now, or at least as soon as possible. And that's about it. There's not a lot to say about it. Again, depending on which Sierra saw you pick up, it's going to have a little bit different ergonomics. They're both pretty basic. Like the Sierra saw, it's just a cheap plastic handle, but you know, it's good enough. There's nothing that I can really say about it that makes it great. It's just simple, cheap, and it does get the job done. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate its cutting ability a little bit. We'll start off with some of these smaller branches. The way the tree is right now, it's propped up on another tree, so what happens is when you cut it from the top, it wedges the saw in a little bit, makes it a little bit more difficult to cut. These branches shouldn't be a problem at all. Okay, you can see that we definitely went through that branch with a fair amount of ease. This tree is only about 3 weeks old. We took it down about 3 weeks ago. You may have seen the video where we just shot it down. Just couldn't take any more gunshots. And I don't have a cameraman right now, so I can't zoom in on this, but you can probably kind of see the width of the tree, or the branch we took off. Probably about 2 inches in diameter. Not too bad. We went through with ease. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and try another little branch here, see how it does. Kind of at a weird angle. And again, that's probably about 1 inch diameter. It's not cutting through huge branches or huge trees, but I'm definitely getting the job done. And this has been sitting out in the woods here, like I said, for 3 weeks. And it's actually almost kind of frozen inside, so it's pretty hard to cut through during the winter, but still getting the job done. Okay, let's go ahead and give the Bowie a try. And actually the Kabar Bowie did a pretty good job at taking down that tree branch. About 2.5 inches in diameter, and that's not too bad. Now I'm not gonna lie, it definitely takes some effort and you're probably gonna work up a bit of sweat doing that. But the thing is, you can't get the job done out in the woods with reasonably lightweight equipment. Now your Sierra saw, it is going to be able to cut down a tree of this size. I don't know how, it's kind of hard to tell with the snow, but well, actually there's a stump that it came from. In fact, you may have seen the video where we shot it down. It's probably about 8 inches in diameter. So not a huge tree, but definitely not a small tree either. And it took, like I said, this tree I didn't cut down with the Sierra saw, but I have cut down trees of approximately that size, and it takes about 20 minutes or so. It definitely does take a bit of effort. I'm not going to lie to you, it doesn't go through it like a cinch or anything like that, but again, for the fact that you're carrying such a lightweight saw with you, it really does a heck of a good job. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and try out the Remington Sierra saw here. Let me see. Let's go ahead and give this Remington Sierra saw a try. Again, I'm going to take my time. I'm not going to try to go as fast as I possibly can, but try to work at a pace that would be about typical out in the woods. And there we go, we're through it. And it really didn't take a lot of effort. I mean, if you had to do that all day, I'm sure it would wear you out quite a bit, but it really wasn't bad. You know, you'd have to do it, I don't know, maybe 5-10 more times before you had a decent amount of wood for a fire. This particular branch, 2.5 inches in diameter. Nothing spectacular or anything, but guess what? It got the job done. Now, I'm going to go ahead and cut down another small segment with the Ozark Brand Trail Sierra saw just to see how it compares. Now keep in mind that the Remington's brand new. I've never used it till today. The Sierra saw I have used this past summer to cut down some trees and branches, so theoretically it could be a little bit more dull, but we'll go ahead and give it a try. Okay, and again we're through the other side, and actually this side looks a little bit thicker, not much, but let's see. Again, about 2.5 inches in diameter, slightly thicker than that last piece, but not much. And you know, again, it didn't really take a lot of effort. And you're going to see here, it makes a very smooth cut, just like you would expect out of, you know, a home circular saw or anything like that. Not that that necessarily matters, although it may be important to you. Maybe if you're building a shelter, you want to get flat pieces. And certainly, you could do that. Now, as with everything, there's typically pros and cons that go along with it. And as far as cutting trees and branches down, I am going to prefer the Sierra saw. However, it doesn't really have a lot of alternate purposes or uses for it, which may not come to you as a surprise or anything. But as with the case of the Bowie, you could use this in a defensive situation, and that's also nice. Now, you know, that's not extremely likely to have to resort to a knife for defense, especially when you're carrying a firearm, a gun, or I mean a pistol or a shotgun or something of that nature. But it's always nice to have a couple purposes if possible. Plus, probably the biggest thing is you can actually split wood with a survival knife like this. And typically, you know, you just put it down the middle, take another log, and just hammer it down. And it'll beat your knife up a little bit, but it is possible. I've done it before, I've seen it done before. And splitting wood might be necessary in a situation like this where a lot of snow on the ground, maybe it's been raining, and you need some dry wood. Or at least wood that is smaller and you can provide greater surface area to the amount of wood that you have, so it actually does burn instead of just stop burning because it's so wet. With this, you're not going to really split wood. In fact, you're not going to split wood at all. You could saw down the center of a log, and that's possible. I really wouldn't want to do that. I think that would take a heck of a lot of effort, as you can imagine. And I probably will demonstrate the splitting of like a little log like that with the Bowie, just to give you an idea. I don't know, we'll see. This you can't really use as a defensive item either. I mean, you know, in some theory, I guess maybe, you know, I wouldn't want to be hit with this, but I don't think it's going to provide too much of a defense against animals or, God forbid, bad guys that might be trying to ruin your day. Just a bit of information to give you an idea. But as far as cutting down trees and branches go, Sierra saw is awesome. For the price, go out and grab one. Put it in your bag or your gear bag, whatever it might be, when you go out next time, and you'll probably find a pretty good use for it. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate the Kabar Bowie a little bit to see how well that's going to cut through a branch, a part of this tree. The part I'm going to be cutting through is actually a bit thicker than what I used to cut through with the Sierra saw. So, you know, just keep that in mind, and we'll go ahead and see how this looks. Okay. I actually already pre-cut it just a little bit. I was just screwing around a little bit earlier, so I don't have much of it cut through, but just so you know. I got a little ways to go yet. Okay, we are through. Definitely took a lot of effort, but it made it through it, and that was definitely pretty cool. You know, I don't recommend doing this all day long. It would get old. If perhaps you had to do this long term, you would want to get a full-size axe. No doubt about it. I'm not going to lie and say that somehow these items replace an axe, but as far as portability goes, pretty much does. Look at that. And chop through it. I'm sure, you know, if you have a little better aim than I do, you could get through it a little bit quicker, but nevertheless, not too bad. One thing I will point out is this is somewhat dangerous to use. I mean, if you slip, get a leg, get a finger, ooh, you know, you're going to be in bad shape. Whereas the Sierra saw, I don't really see you slipping and cutting yourself too bad at all. But with this, oh yeah, you better be careful. But definitely gets the job done, and as with anything, just use it responsibly and it shouldn't be a problem. Okay. Let's say you want to split this log we just cut down. It's not too bad. I already got started a little bit. I would prefer something a little bit longer than this, but that's what I have for now. Okay, I might have to reposition this a little bit. Again, this would be easier if I had a longer log. Okay, there we go. Didn't take too much effort. It was actually easier than cutting the log down, period. And you know, if you wanted to split it down even more, which you probably would if we wanted to get this wood burning now, it's not hard to do. And again, split it a little bit more. Man, I wish I had a longer log in this. Too short. Just always watch your fingers. Take your time. You don't have to be in too big of a hurry. And I'm just trying to filter for moisture, and it's actually fairly dry on the inside. You could definitely get a fire going with this. You would need a little smaller kindling to get it going, but you know, we got some nice pieces of split wood to go ahead and start a fire. And if you had a couple people with you in your crew, you could take turns, you know, chopping some trees down, even if you just have the one knife. That way one person doesn't totally exhaust themselves on splitting. Definitely a lot of options out there. Just for the heck of it, I just want to see how long it might take to cut something like this down through the center. Oh wow. Hard to hold and saw, but you know what? That would take a really long time. So again, with the Sierra saw, you're not going to be able to split with it, but a little lighter weight, and in some ways maybe a little bit easier to cut through trees. Although this can be pretty quick, but you know, it's kind of a crapshoot. Depends on whether you like swinging or a little slower, steadier pace with less effort. And you know what, I'm just going to end very quickly with this. Definitely, as far as the items I've shown you today, I would either go with the Sierra saw or the Bowie knife. The Kabar Bowie is definitely a little bit more multi-purpose. You can use it to cut trees, branches, split wood, and also to defend your life, possibly. Not that it's the greatest item, but still it's possible. Whereas a Sierra saw, although more lightweight and definitely a lot cheaper, only about $8 compared to the $50 for the Bowie, it cuts down trees and branches rather well. It just can't really go beyond that. If it came down to it, I would possibly go with the Bowie just because it is more multi-purpose, and I think it definitely would hold up better. It's better made. The Sierra saw, you know, if you drop it and step on it, the handle's going to break and you're done. You're really not going to be able to easily break the Bowie handle, if at all. So I am going to go with the Bowie, but at the same time I recommend getting both. For $8, get the Sierra saw next time you see one. It's definitely a worthwhile item to have. And stay tuned, I am going to do a more detailed review of the Kabar Bowie, but I just wanted to kind of throw it in here with the Sierra saw review. Thank you.